bishops do not have the vision. They don't have the vision. So it's up to us, and I like what Dave said last night. He said, this is our time, we're on the stage, we're on the field, this is our Super Bowl. We need to step up to make this happen. We're making a t-shirt that says, not on my watch. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional already, man. Started. I get emotional when they open up a Walmart. So, grand opening, anyway. Very emotional. So, all right. Great athletes have three things, Steve. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I've started. Elder Holland, at the national meeting, at the end of his talk, if you haven't read that, now how many were there at the national meeting? There's just a few of us who were there. But he talked about the future, that we've got some rough times ahead. But he said that we're entitled. And this is the thing that really helped me. But we're entitled.
You're making me look good right now, Steve. Thank you so much.
We're entitled to inspiration, revelation, in order to solve this problem. We're entitled to that as the Boy Scouts. Our bishops, stake presidents are entitled to that. And so with that in mind, I'd like to open with a word of prayer for all. And you guys will lead us to do that.
Our Father, which art in heaven, we humbly bow our heads before Thee. We give Thee thanks, Father, for this great opportunity that we've had to be in this dad planning conference. And grateful for this great privilege that we have to be working for the Boy Scouts of America. We ask a special blessing at this time that Thou would bless us, enlighten our minds, open our eyes, open our ears, so that revelation, that inspiration that we need to help share with our stake leaders, our local bishops, the parents of our youth, and the leaders, especially the leaders that work with our youth, that they may be able to see the vision and receive that entitlement of inspiration and revelation, so that they may know how to best make a connection with the youth that are struggling. We pray that Thou would help us as professionals, that we can receive that same enlightenment, that we can be able to share with enthusiasm and excitement, so that by example, we will be able to help our volunteers capture a better vision of what our responsibilities are to the youth. Remind us as professionals that we may be humble, so that we can be able to remember our volunteers for what they do for our youth. Help us that we may be good stewards, and that we can continue to do Thy will and help raise up a chosen generation. We're grateful for all the many opportunities, and we ask a special blessing be upon Steve as he makes his presentation, that he may be guided, and that we may also be guided by Thy Spirit, so that we can receive these words and be able to share them with those that we are entrusted in teaching, especially our youth and our volunteers. And this we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, thank you. The phenomenon that I noticed is that when the varsity team was doing well, we had all programs were doing well. The kids wanted to get involved with the sports. They wanted to get involved at a young age because they all wanted to play on the varsity team. They wanted to get beat up, eat bad food, all of that to be on that varsity team. And so our angle in the Grand Teton Council is on the older boy program. We feel like the older boy program, if we can make that happen, then the natural flow is going to be the kids are going to want to be part of that program. If there's nothing there, eventually, what do we have to offer? My son, we're in a ward that have no trained leaders other than me, and no committees. And he told me, he said, they don't want to do this, Dad. They don't want to do it. It's too hard. Sorry. And then he said to me, don't waste my time. He's 15, he knows everything. Don't waste my time, Dad, with scouting. Okay? So my hardest challenge is right there in the room with me. That hurt. But he's right. We're wasting our time. They don't come running to our program. They don't pay the $1,000. You know, to play baseball for 40 games in my area costs $1,000. We've got hundreds of kids that want to do that. So while we're doing this presentation, I want you to think, what's the difference between that and what we have? And I believe what we have is infinitely better than any high school football program or baseball or whatever. And I know because I'm heavily involved in all of it. Okay, so we're calling our venturing vision. Okay? And before we can do anything, before we can open the door, we have to identify what the needs are of the people we're trying to serve. And I've found that they really don't know what their needs are. So we have to help them. So the first step in this is we ask the adults, what is it that you want for your youth? We ask the bishops, stake presidents, we ask the parents, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And remember, perception is reality, right? They perceive something, then that's what we've got to serve that. I found that on the football and the baseball, our baseball team isn't very good. We barely get enough kids to field the varsity and JV teams with whoever shows up for the tryout. On the other hand, the football teams do very well, and we have hundreds of kids involved. And I think it's all about, well, I'll tell you why in this presentation. So tell me quick, what do the adults want? What do our LDS people want for their kids? What are they going to say when you do this presentation?
Prepared missionaries.
Okay, they want mission prep. If you're going to take my boys and you're going to do something with them, we want them, part of that is to be prepared for a mission. What else do they want?
Safety.
They want them safe. I don't care what you do. I don't want my boy coming back less than what he was when you took him.
They pay hundreds of dollars to go to get what? They want their testimony.
Okay? Testimony. Don't care what you do, as long as it builds his testimony, it doesn't interfere with his testimony.
They wanted to have fun and some adventure.
Okay? Have fun. They want him to have fun.
About good character.
They want him to come away from us with good character, right? And my high school I went to, I took creative writing, creative spelling. So I graduated, so I'm allowed to spell things
And
anyway.
you graduated.
I did graduate, thank you. Oh,
The good adult mentors, role models in
Okay.
the lives besides that.
role models, mentors. Yeah, they don't.
learn to become leaders.
Okay, they want leadership opportunities.
They
What
want
else?
to feel successful.
They want them to be successful.
Learn to do hard things.
Want them to do hard things.
Life skills.
Life skills. Social skills. They want to prepare for their education. They want to be educated. They want them to fit in, have a good job. They want them to have a good peer group that they're associated with. They want all this, the same things that we want for our kids. They want those. But we have to help them identify and say, okay, yeah, that's really what I want. I want scouting. I want the church. I want everybody. When my boy enters through that door, these are the things that are my needs as a parent or a bishop or a stake president. He needs to come out of there building these things. Okay? So that's the one side. Now what's the other side? The boys. What do they want in a program?
They want to have fun.
Yeah, they want to have fun. They want to have food. They want to have girls.
Friends.
They want to have friends. They want to have adventure.
Their phone.
They want to be recognized.
Their technology.
They want the tech. They want, do they want to prepare for their missions?
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll say missions. They want a testimony?
College
Yeah.
prep. You know,
College prep. Okay. Thank you. The strongest motivation for a boy ages 13 to 18 is acceptance. He wants to be accepted in and identified with a peer group that accepts him. And we know this because that's what makes that's why we have gangs. Did you know in Los Angeles, a young man killed another kid for his tennis shoes? He waited in line around the mall, and they sold, I don't know what it was, Air Jordan. Well, it wasn't that dates me, I know. But it was one of the popular guys, I'm trying to think of his name. He had a shoe, and they were selling it in the mall. And in order to become part of his group, they had to wear these shoes. He killed a kid for his shoes, because he wasn't in the line that got this stuff. And so this is a powerful, to be accepted by your peers is very powerful and a strong motivation. And I think that plays a big part in our football, in our sports, to be accepted in a group that has similar values, similar things, and to be recognized. I think that's the driving force. They want to be recognized by their peers as being someone who's there. They've made it. I'm the quarterback, or I'm the offensive line star. They're being recognized by their peers, and that's what motivates them.
It's interesting because young men may waste 90% of their time doing nothing, but if they're going to give their time to you, they don't want their time to be wasted.
That's true.
And that's one of the reasons they don't show up to scouting activities, because their time is wasted.
Their time is wasted. Okay, so we cannot serve this group until we understand what their needs are. We cannot provide a program. We can do nothing until this is our first step. What is it that you need? And then we will show you how scouting can meet these needs with our programs. Okay? So that acceptance is extremely important. And all of these things are quorum based. I'll get into that a little bit later. To maintain the integrity of the quorum, the church uses scouting for their age groups. And if you read the Green Book, it's pretty clear. If you have a kid these ages, then you need to have this kind of a scouting structure. And I talked with Alan Rogers. How many of you know Alan Rogers? Okay, very good friend. He's the risk manager for the church. Everything goes through his office. Everything. All the lawsuits, all the boys that's got problems, all the stake presidents that call, say they got a kid hurt, what do they do? They got a kid killed, what do we do? We've got this problem in scouting, what do we do? And so he fields a lot of these things, a lot of these problems. And so he supports this. I'll just throw that in there. Okay, anything else? Any needs that we haven't identified? See, education. But belonging and being part of a team, being accepted by the peers, is the strongest motivation. Everything is secondary to that. Okay.
Yeah, that relates to your football analogy, because that's why kids do football a lot of times.
Yeah, and these younger kids ski. They're part of a group. I couldn't believe that these little kid's eyes were this big around. He was clunking in his ski boots, and he ran to that front door to get in there to get to his ski lesson. I don't know how much it costs. What do ski lessons cost? A couple of $100, you know? I don't know. So money's not the issue. They'll pay for it if we're meeting their needs. If we're not meeting their needs, they're not going to pay for it. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time if you're not going to fulfill my needs. How many of you go anywhere without a motivation to fulfilling one of your needs? Do you go somewhere where you're not accepted? Do you go anywhere where people shun you? Or adults, we don't do that. You know, and kids don't do it either, especially the older kids. If they don't feel accepted, they're not going to show up. Okay. All right. Now, the next part of the presentation is we talk about problems. Why you feel like it's not working in the LDS church. So we do this little thing, and this is a copy years ago off of other things. We talk about the leadership model, and we were doing the Reader's Digest version because of time, but we let them develop this. We talk about the Cub Master, Scout Master, Varsity, Venture Leader. We talk about the evolution of leadership that's changed from a master to an advisor, and how that structure the leadership is transferred to the boy. We introduced, of course, the patrol leader method here. And then what do you call the youth guy here? Team captain. What's the guy? The youth. He's the president. There's a big difference between patrol leaders and president. And so we explain that and we work through that. Now let me go back to my football. We found that if we have a good varsity program, that the Little League does better, all of those teams fill in along the way because they want to be on that varsity team. We had the same research. What does our research tell us? It tells us that if we get a young man as a Cub Scout and he stays in the program with the Boy Scouts of America, number one, if he joins as a Cub Scout, he's going to be more likely he's going to stay than if he joins anywhere else. But we have a longer time to influence him. We have a period of time we can have a greater influence him with the Scout Oath and Law the longer he stays in the program. Now that's not rocket science. So it behooves us then to develop the varsity team. And so when I talk about this, venturing is the ultimate in scouting. That's where we're trying to get every boy. That's where he as a presidency can exercise the program that he's learned all of his life, growing up through the system. Okay? And so we're touting that you develop a good varsity program, they'll want to go to the Super Bowl, these younger kids, and they'll want to stay in scouting. Now, what's blocking us from having that? Okay? One of the things that's blocking it is our activities. What are the activities for Cub Scouts?
Taking.
Find the derby. Home center.
Day camp, home center. They have a master pretty much telling them what to do. It's an introductory to life. They get to explore little bits and pieces of life and introductory. And they have a structured program that a master is delivering. What about the Scouts, the Boy Scouts? We introduced the patrol leader, so now a little bit of leadership on the youth side. And then they have a structured program. Merit badges, camping, okay? Very structured. What about varsity? And this is really important. We have to know our product. If you don't know the varsity program, if you don't know venturing, this isn't going to work. You've got to study it. You've got to make it part of you. You've got to bleed orange, as the orange people say. You've got to bleed green, as the venture people. If you don't have that kind of passion for it, then you're going to be stuck down here. You're not going to get to the Super Bowl. You're not going to be part of the varsity team. Okay? So they have a structured program. Varsity, areas of emphasis, right?
Yeah.
Boys are assigned, right?
Yeah.
To that emphasis. Hopefully they're interested in that. We found, I get this all the time and you get it all the time, the boys aren't interested. Well, how can the boys be interested or not interested in the stuff that they're interested in?
Because leaders aren't interested.
Leaders don't push it.
Okay, let me say that again. Well, they're not interested. How can a boy be not interested in the things that he's interested in? We don't know what he's interested in. We're not even asking him what he's interested in. We don't care because we're not going to do it.
I think the leaders are doing a lot of the picking of the activities.
Sure. And like, what do we learn about fishing? Do I put the food that I want? I like, tater tots. I throw that out there. Fish doesn't bite. Well, I need. What does he want? He wants a juicy worm or a fly. So that's exactly what we're talking about here. Okay. So they have 5. Can they do merit badges?
Yes,
Sure.
sir.
So they have a structured program. They can do merit badges. They've got 5. They've got the varsity letter. They've got a new flavor now. It's a new flavor. We introduced one activity thing that we haven't talked about yet. What is that?
High adventure.
High adventure. High adventure. So now we've got some high adventure. Venturing. Tell me, what are the areas? I'm going to test you. What are the areas?
Outdoors. Alps.
No, outdoors is on the old program.
Social.
So it's Alps.
It's Alps. So what does that stand for?
Adventure.
Adventure, leadership,
Personal growth.
personal growth, and
Service.
service. Okay? Now the trick here is once you get, you show them the program Then you say, this is how this is going to meet your need. Okay, adventure. Well, we got fun, we got maybe girls, if it's a combined, we got food, we got my friends are all going, there's adventure. And so you start lining these up. What does it do for their parents? Well, we're going to have a testimony meeting on our high adventure. We're safe because we have, all of our adults are trained, all of them have the proper insurances for their car, they all have seat belts, they all understand 2D leadership, they all have been on safe swim, defense, safety, float, because we're going on the water. They're going to be safe, Mom. Don't worry about that. Okay, they want to have fun. So we compare these things. Okay, now, so what's stopping us from doing that? Now, can Ventures do merit badges? Okay, so they've got a structured program with merit badges. What do we call their 1 year thing? Big event? Super activity. Now to me, that sounds like that's one step ahead of a high adventure, a super high adventure, super activity. Okay, now the problem in the church is we have this age group of boy doing these kinds of activities. We had a group go to Hawaii for their scout camp. What are they going to do when they're varsity?
You're going to have to go to the moon.
And what are they going to do in their ventures? They're going to have to go on the shuttle or whatever and explore space with Captain Kirk.
They also flip it. They have their 16, 17-year-olds doing activities the 12, 13-year-olds should be doing. They do that quite a lot as well.
So we have to teach this. They have to stay in their program. This is the Deacon's Quorum. This leader here has keys. Don't combine him with other presidents with keys. That takes away his opportunity to leadership, right? So we nixed all of the states that want to do one troop for everything. President, would you combine all your quorums together? Who's going to be the president? Who's got the keys? Can you even do that? Okay? So we've got keys here, we've got keys here. Hopefully the bishop's involved. He's got the keys here. And we want to maintain the integrity of this quorum with that president and his keys. And we don't want to spoil him on the next level, so we're going to stay to the program here. We're going to keep the 50-milers over here and here. We're going to keep the tomahawk throwing to here and here. We're going to keep we're not going to do a high adventure mountain bike trek across the USA. We're not going to go to Hawaii. We're going to keep them within their structure and in their program. Do you see wisdom in this?
We model some of the same problem though in our councils. We need to be very careful about this in the way that we plan and structure our scout camps and make sure that Boy Scout camp is for Boy Scouts, and that if there are high adventure programs and whatnot, that they are for those older boys, and that we're not putting the younger boys in them like Cope.
Yeah.
We tend to want to run our 11-year-olds through a Cope program. Don't do it.
You've got to save it.
When you have a high adventure base, you cannot run Boy Scout merit badge programs at your high adventure base. You're telling the leaders, this is all we want you to do with these boys.
Yep.
We have to have different, better programs that are for those age groups. If we're going to model that for the leaders, then we want to change their behavior.
Yes. Yes, very, very true. Okay. So we need to keep them in their quorums and in activities that are specifically designed for their quorum. We can't spoil them. We're afraid that they won't show up, so we need to entertain them. And we entertain them with high adventure and super activity type things. There's nothing for them. So why then do we lose kids, all of us lose kids at that break point? There's nothing for them. There's no Super Bowl. There's no varsity team. There's no nothing for me to look forward to. There's nothing. Don't waste my time. There's nothing there. Okay? Now, there are stakes that do this. I know the Granite South Stake. They're probably one of the best stakes in the Great Salt Lake Council. They do this. Charles Dahlquist lives in that stake. You're a product of that stake. They do this stuff. So there are people that we can point to say, yes, they're fulfilling the needs of their people. They understand this. And they're reserving venturing for venturing. This is super activity. This is where everything that you learned all the way up there, here, you get to put in action. And you get to do the things that you're not interested in, that you're interested in. You get to do those things there. And we take their interest, and all of you, how many have heard that? Their boys aren't interested. Oh, come on. If you haven't heard that, then you're under a rock. I mean, or you're brand spanking new.
It's called an activity interest survey, for any more reason.
And so we take that interest and we teach them leadership skills all based around that interest. I wish they did do that for me as an adult. They tell me what my interest is, and then but now as a kid, they get to take their interest and build a program. They learn delegation. They learn to follow up with the adults and with their consultants. They learn the 12 leadership skills, or is it 11?
13.
13 is food, isn't it? And anyway, so they learn these skills based around their interests. So don't tell me they're not interested in what they're interested in. You haven't asked them. You haven't taken the time to ask them. The interest survey, we've got all kinds of tools that help us identify what their needs are. And on a chemical level, these are things that produce serotonin in their brain. And that's the motivation. That's all of our motivation. When serotonin is released into our brain, we like it. We like what we're doing. We like the activity, whatever it is. We like it. And so we tend to do that activity again and again. For me, it's eating. And it produces tons of serotonin in my system. I love to eat. Okay. So, all right. So we spoil them. The church spoils their kids because they don't have faith in these other programs to keep their kids interested in the program.
Steve, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but how can you hope to provide a whole scouting program in a setting where people who aren't scouters are put in positions of leadership and aren't expected to be trained in how to do this?
You know, Alan Rogers told me, he said, we expect, talking about stake presidents and bishops, for them to be experts with no experience. We expect them to be experts with no experience. And Alan said, that's why we rely on you. If you read the Green, he said, get them to the Green Handbook. The Green Handbook will answer 98% of their problems. And the Green Handbook says, go to the Scouts. You want to go to the Scouts. You want to be trained? Go to the Scouts. You want to be, it's only 8 pages long, but it refers to thousands of pages of documents that the Scouts have. And he explained it to me. He said, the church teaches correct principles and they govern themselves. The Boy Scouts of America is the OSHA part of that partnership. Except for OSHA doesn't care whether you conform or not, they're just going to fine you. Where we have a vested interest and we provide insurances, we provide training, we don't want them to be penalized, we want to help them. So there is a little bit of this, not a perfect model.
I mean, speaking of OSHA, LDS units are the most dangerous units to be in because of this lack of leadership.
In 2005, the First Presidency put a committee together with Alan Rogers. I was the risk manager at the Great Salt Lake Council. Some people from Lagoon, some people from the church, from the sheriff's office, the search and rescue. We were having problems. We lost 2 boys. One boy we never found. We found a sock. He disappeared off the face of the earth at one of our camps. Another boy was lost, a 9-year-old at a varsity event, shouldn't even been there. And he got lost for several days. We find him. And we had 5 deaths. The Catholics didn't kill anybody. The Methodists that had a program, they didn't kill him. Why is the church kill? And they said to their young men's presidency, we need to know why. What's the difference? And after 3 or 5 months, however long it took, we boiled it down to trained leadership. When you're not trained, and Alan Rogers will tell you this because he was on the committee, when you're not trained, you risk the church, you risk yourself, and you risk these boys because you're not willing to be trained. And so he said, don't back down off your training. Don't change your training. The church is relying upon you to teach don't take away your round tables. That's the only place where my new guy can go and get the information he needs. So, I mean, there's been talk, we're going to cancel round tables. We're not going to do that anymore. The church is depending upon us to have our round tables. And he said, if they're no good and nobody's complaining, they don't want to go to your round table, well, then you go back to the stake, that's his guy teaching the round table, and you get the best guy. They get their nomination committees together, And you give me your best guy, and we'll make this entertaining. We'll be short and sweet and to the point, and we'll protect your church and your leaders. You're going to like it.
Right.
Okay? And so they need to understand that the leadership is transferring to these key holders along the way. We're preparing them. And then they become the president there, where they have the full support and training of a president. Okay? Now, because of time, I'm not going to go into it, but we teach them how to backdate. We plan our super activity from the super activity back. That seems to be the easiest way to train. Okay? Now, so train, we tell them, give your units some TLC, train leaders and committees. Without that, we're really struggling. We can't meet these needs. And I always ask them, do you want to meet the needs of your congregation? Is this important to you, President? Well, yes, that's what the church is for, is to meet the needs of these families. Now, here's the next part. What are the two most important associations to a young man, according to the literature, the handbook, number 2 in the Rock Priest handbook?
His family and his work.
His
Parents and peers.
His family is number 1. The Lord's going to take care of these needs in his family and his priesthood quorum. It doesn't say school. It doesn't say at his work. It doesn't say at his football team. It doesn't say at whatever's drawing them away from this and this. That's not where he's going to get this from. Now he might have some fun, but are we going to leave it up to his girlfriend to satisfy these things and prepare him for his mission? The Lord's not going to. He wants him in his family and in his quorum. That's where we're going to meet his needs. And that they need to understand that. They need to know that the Lord's relying on you as an advisor, as a scoutmaster, to prepare them. It's important. This isn't, well, we're not going to meet this week because my wife had a flat tire and I really don't want to go. And this is important stuff. So important that the Stripling Warriors is an excellent, why have the story of the Stripling Warriors in the scriptures unless it's for us, right? And it's modeling how we should work with young men. The first thing that happened in the Stripling Warriors, and all of you need to read it, what's it, 53, Alma 53, you go home and read that and apply it to today. Okay? What's stripling? That's a boy 13 to 17. So these 2,000 boys were Stripling Warriors, were ages 13 to 17. Okay? What's the first thing that they did when they organized? They chose their leader. They chose Helaman, right? As their leader. I always ask the leader, with your boys, would they choose you? With the parents were involved in that. Would they say, we're turning our boy over to you to prepare him to do all this stuff in his priesthood quorum to support the family? How you doing? Feeling good about it? Well, I'm all alone. There's nobody trained. I don't know where to go. Well, go get training. Get your committees going. There's no committees up here. How many of you rechartered in the last bit? I've been doing this for 27 years. I've yet to see more than a handful have committees dedicated to these 2 older boy programs. Am I wrong?
No, there are multiples.
Multiple. There's like just barely enough to charter. Well, that's what they got. Barely enough to just survive. This right here, the varsity team, we need the most important committee. The Super Bowl needs the most important planning. Right here, we need the committees here so that these kids have something to look forward to. And we don't spoil them. I had a leader, and I don't mean to, I'm allowed 4 offenses, so if I haven't done that, get ready for 4. The boys' plan, this was an exploring right here in Provo. The boys' plan, we're teaching this. This is eventually similar. They planned a trip down to Lake Powell. And it's great. The kids are planning it, they're getting off work, we're helping them. One kid lost his job, we helped him find a job because his mother was furious at us. For him to go to Lake Powell, he lost his job, blah, blah, blah. We got him a new job with that committee. The committee. So, the bishop, bless his heart. Bishop saw all the planning and organization. We sold trees, Christmas trees, made a lot of money. Bless his heart. He spent their money that they earned, gave it to everybody. The girls, the boys, all the programs. And that's his prerogative, he can do that. But he turned their plan, into a fathers and sons. He said, wow, that's great planning, you've got everybody lined up, everybody grow. We need a fathers and sons, let's do that. What did that do to the boys that planned it? And that's his prerogative, he can do that, but he needs to understand that we're trying to meet, this is his varsity team. We're focused here. We've only got 2 years at the most, and then these guys are gone. They're out in the world battling. They're battling their 250-pound Lamanite here in 2 years, and probably less than that. Is he ready? Have we sufficiently prepared him for that? Okay, so help the bishops and stake presidents to know they're thinking of solving everybody's problem, but keep this, protect this. And these kids here will say, well, I want to go to Lake Powell. You will when you become a venture. You'll be able to plan your super activity. Well, I want to go shoot black powder. I want to shoot a 50 caliber machine gun. I want to go on a 50-miler hike. I want to float the river. I want to do whitewater canoeing. You'll get a chance to do that. And they believe us because this group is actually doing that. They're doing the things that they're not interested in that they're interested in. Okay? That's how, in my opinion, and this is where our council is going, this is how we're going to give the vision back to these people that have lost it or have never had it. And like Alan Rogers said, we expect them to be experts with no experience. How many generations do we have now that's never even seen a functioning anything? Some of these leaders have never been. And they're the bishops now, the stake presidents, they've never had this experience. So we got to share the vision. And once they catch the vision, then they're going to implement this stuff. That's our only hope. That's the only thing we can do. If they won't listen to the vision, then what else can we do? I mean, we keep plodding along, we keep pushing them. Okay, so, Stripling Warriors, what did they do? We've got some scriptorians in here. We were in Happy Valley.
Well, they listened to their mothers,
Okay,
taught by their mothers.
that's not where I was going with this, but yeah.
They were obedient.
They're obedient. Okay, they're young kids. These are our stripling warriors. These are the modern stripling warriors right now. These are the 400,000 stripling warriors that we have the opportunity to prepare to meet their Lamanite.
There's 2,000 of them.
2,000 of them. How many of you have had a camp with 2,000 kids? Okay, a couple of you. National Jamboree, we took 20, that was only 800.
We did 10,000 for our encampment.
Okay, now you're going to put them on a forced run for 2.5 days. Can you do that? Are you going to lose any along the way? You're going to feed them out in the wilderness. You're going to march them through a land I think they knew. Okay? Now let me put the scouts in this. I think they knew how to do fires. I think they knew how to camp. I think they knew about inclement weather. I think they knew about physical fitness. Okay? I think they knew all these things. And so the Lord could do with them, just like He prepared David with the stone in the creek, He prepared these young men so that when the time came, they would be able to perform and they would have faith in there.
I think they did it because they believed.
Okay? They had faith.
They had faith.
They were
had
organized
faith.
in patrols.
They were organized.
They were organized. They took their team. They ran through the wilderness. They had to know where they were going. You're going to take 2,000 kids on a run up a mountain and you don't know where you're going? And they've never been there before?
They didn't start when they were 13 or 14 years old. They started when they were 7 or 8.
They've been preparing for... I submit to you that they had the scouting program that was preparing these kids back then. And that the fire building and the food... Where did they get the water?